Hey guys, what's up? MMA Savant here. I'm going to do a prediction for the main card of UFC 241. I'm out here in Tennessee at my house. I'm sitting on the backhoe. It's a nice, beautiful morning. Great light, great everything. So let's get it started. I'm going to do the main card only. I've recorded this video several times, but it was too rambly, so I'm going to try to rush through it. I'm going to try to get through it without going on tangents, like I always do. Okay, so the card basically consists of this. The main event is going to be Daniel Cormier is going to rematch Stipe Miocic for the UFC heavyweight title. The next fight down, what I'm calling the people's main event, the one that everybody's really want to see, as far as I'm concerned. Nate Diaz is returning after a 3-year-long layoff to fight Anthony Pettis at 170 pounds. Paulo Costa is fighting Yoel Romero at middleweight. Of course, middleweight. That's a fight that's been trying to get booked several times and it's fell through for different reasons. We have a 45-pound tilt with Benitez fighting Sadiq Youssef. And the card is being opened by middleweights Derek Brunson taking on Ian Heinisch. So let's get it started. Okay, so my notes down here. I know everything about this shit. Ian Heinisch is kind of a new guy on the scene, and he's going to be taking on Derek Brunson. Ian Heinisch just got a decision win over Shoeface. For those of you who don't know who that is Antonio Carlos Jr., very high-level world champion black belt. Ian Heinisch was able to stifle that black belt grappling and get a decision win over him. Before that, Ian Heinisch beat Mutanchi. Mutanchi, for those of you who don't know, who aren't nerds like me, is Cesar Ferreira. He's a protege of Victor Belfort. And he's even got a win over Gabriel Checo. I consider myself the MMA savant, and I barely remember Gabriel Checo. I've heard his name in different circles and different jiu-jitsu things, but he's got some good wins. He's fighting Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson is a good wrestler. Great for the... he's a good wrestler. But his striking is so undisciplined and so sloppy that it sets him up for losses that don't need to happen. It's really bad. Like his performance against Robert Whittaker was embarrassing. He looks like a modern day Leonard Garcia. And for those of you who don't remember Leonard Garcia, he was a best friend. He's the best friend and teammate of Donald Cerrone. He used to fight a lot like he was selected from the audience to come up and fight. He would bull rush people and just kind of swing like this. That's what watching Derek Brunson is like. Now, before I forget, I want to thank Derek Brunson for getting Elias Teodoro out of the UFC. That guy was terrible. That guy sucked. He had good wins. He had good record, but he wasn't a really good fighter, and he was too focused on being pretty and too focused on being... What people don't realize is there's a difference between charisma and funny. If you're not a funny person, for God's sake, do not try to be funny in front of a crowd. You're not funny. He used to try to do these silly little moves and entertain the crowd, but it was more awkward than anything. So Derek Brunson beat him, and they cut Elias Teodoro immediately. So that's out of the way. Thank you, Derek Brunson, for that. I just feel like Ian Heinisch is streaking right now. He's got a better record as of late. I think it's his time. Ian Heinisch getting it done by stoppage in the 3rd round over Derek Brunson. Moving on. Gabriel Benitez is going to fight Sadiq Youssef. Sadiq Youssef, I don't really find a lot of information on him. He is 9-1 in in his career. The biggest win I could see was over Shaman Moraes. Not a lot to work with there. No disrespect to Shaman Moraes. He's good. He's a good fighter in his own right. But the guy he's fighting is Benitez. He's actually third best striking defense in UFC history. Number one in featherweight history in striking defense. So just with that information alone, and the fact that I believe Gabriel or Benitez is 21-6. He's got too much cage time. He's got too much experience, and he's just too polished of a striker. Look for Benitez to get the knockout early in the second round, maybe the first, but he might let it go a little bit and put a clinic on him to get something for the highlight reel, to get a promotional thing, some footage. That wouldn't be his goal, but that would be the byproduct of it. Whatever. Okay, moving on to the fun stuff. Paulo Costa Borrachinha, the little rubber, the little racer, is going to be fighting. I know it's a silly name. It doesn't really translate to English that well. It's kind of dumb. But is going to be fighting Yoel Romero, one of the scariest people on the planet. But the weird thing about this fight is Yoel Romero, Paulo Costa is the motherfucker that's been calling out Romero. No one else is doing that. People are like reluctant to take the fight, or like, don't want to fight him or whatever. Paulo Costa has beat Johnny Hendricks, who's 5'9" or something, and he's, just a bloated welterweight. He beat him, and he beat Uriah Hall, which is, good, but the caliber of opponents, the jump from Hall to Romero is quite large. Whereas on Romero's side, the guys that he's beat are Luke Rockhold, finished him. Machida finished him. Chris Weidman finished him. Tim Kennedy finished him. Please save your comments about the cheating Stoolgate thing. You're not original, please. And to counter that, yes, I know Tim Kennedy also cheated by hooking the glove. And I also know that Romero was saved by the bell, no doubt about it, in their first or second round. I forget what round it was. I think it was second round. So I understand that. But he did beat Tim Kennedy. Who else? I personally believe, and a lot of people think this too, that he beat Whitaker in their second fight, even though Whitaker got the decision. Jacare. If Romero wasn't a two-time silver medalist in wrestling, and he didn't have 2 wins over Cael Sanderson, it was just a black belt versus a black belt, and a heavy puncher versus a heavy puncher, I would give it to Costa for being younger and being more driven, and he just feels like he's in the zone right now. But the problem is Romero is that good of a wrestler. So look for Romero to... And another thing about Romero is you could say, well, Paulo Costa is much younger. Paulo Costa is younger. I get it. And he's undefeated. He's 12-0. But Romero doesn't take a lot of damage in his style. It's a lull, and then a jump in, work, blitz, come back. He doesn't care about getting taken down because he can pop right back up. He also can take you down whenever he wants. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this fight because it's exciting, but the buzz isn't there. I don't know why. The buzz isn't there. So I'm going to say Romero by ground and pound in the third round. Moving on. Nate Diaz is coming off a long layoff to fight Anthony Pettis. The fight is at 170. Anthony Pettis is coming off a spectacular Superman punch off the cage and knockout victory over former contender Stephen Thompson, who, if people forget, Stephen Thompson has a knockout win over Robert Whitaker. Just people always forget that. Back when Whitaker was at 170. Okay, whatever. He's fighting. So let's break it down. For those of you who don't know, I'm a little biased. I'm a big Nate Diaz fan. I'm a big Anthony Pettis fan too, but let's break it down. Striking, then grappling. The better. Hi, buddy. My little dog's over there. The better striker is Anthony Pettis. No doubt about it. The better MMA boxer, not puncher, boxer, is Nate Diaz. Longer reach, higher volume, and his training partners are better. He's been boxing with Andre Ward for years. Andre Ward, for those of you who don't know, is a Olympian boxer, and I believe he's undefeated. And he says Nate Diaz is very good. Now, everybody always says that about their guy, so take that with what you want. I don't follow boxing, so I don't know how good Andre Ward is, but I'm to understand he's at the upper level. Whatever. The better boxer is Nathan Diaz. Nate Diaz does not check kicks. And the reason why they don't check kicks, his brother said this one time, is because if they check a kick, that means they come out of their stance. You come out of your stance, you get knocked out. Or you potentially could get knocked out. The Diaz brothers have a history, or have a known proclivity, to really not get finished if it's under their control. Sometimes it gets... Nick's been stopped a few times with cuts, but it wasn't like he didn't want to continue. Nate's been stopped one time by Hermes Franca due to an armbar, and he was stopped by Josh Thompson due to a head kick. And it wasn't even... It was, Nick threw in the towel. That was in San Jose on April the 20th, 2000 and... I want to say 13, but whatever. It was the card that was headlined by Benson Henderson and Gilbert Melendez. Okay, moving on. I see Anthony Pettis... Okay, grappling. Anthony Pettis is a black belt under Daniel Wanderlei. Might be Vanderlei, but I don't know. I just don't really know who he is. No disrespect meant, I just don't know who you are. You know, I know you're 100% legit black belt, no doubt about it. Because he's got wins over Gilbert Melendez, Charles Oliveira, Michael Chiesa, Benson Henderson. Whereas Nate has got 13 submission wins. He's got the most submission wins, other than Charles Oliveira, maybe Hoyce. I think he's got the most submission wins. Nate's got jiu-jitsu competition wins over Adam Piccolotti, Ryan Hall, some good Bay Area guys. And he's got, MMA wins over, I don't know, Gray Maynard, Conor McGregor, Rory Markham, Marcus Davis. Marcus Davis, not Rory Markham. Kurt Pellegrino, Alvin Robinson, Melvin Gillard. Not that those guys are all high. They're all super high level. Melvin Gillard certainly is not a super high level grappler, but the fact that he can weather the punches, and then, Jim Miller, great. That's my favorite. That's a great fight. If you haven't seen that fight, Nate Diaz, Jim Miller, New Jersey, awesome fight. Two black belts going at it. Jim Miller getting his first submission loss with beautiful jiu-jitsu. I just see Nate's black belt being blacker, and him just being better. I don't see Nate getting caught in a submission. I can see Nate catching Anthony Pettis in a submission. Wrestling isn't really a factor for either of these two guys. Nate's got some good hip tosses, and I'm sure they both have a basic level of wrestling, just enough to get by or just enough to try to stuff the takedown. Nate's fought at welterweight several times now. Fought Conor McGregor welterweight, fought Rory McDonald. He got his ass kicked, but he still didn't get finished. Fought Stun Gun at 70. He fought Marcus. I think I've already said this part, but I've recorded this video like 4 times, and so I can't remember what I've said or what I haven't said in this video, but whatever. People don't realize that Nathan Diaz is a big dude. Like, if you don't know this or not, like, just because you or your friends or your buddies walk around at a certain weight, that's like regular people, like non-athlete, non-fight shape weight. I'm just about 6'1". I think I'm technically like 6 foot and 3/4 of an inch, um, with shoes off, of course. And I walk around about 225 pounds. And I've dropped in at Cesar Gracie Academy, and I've stood next to Nate with the gi on, and we're about the same size. You know, like not I'm like a little bigger, like maybe 11/12 scale or whatever. Like I'm just a little bigger than Nate, but we're not much difference. Nate's a bigger guy than you know. He's about 6 foot tall, and the reach that they have down isn't his actual reach, because Nate does this thing where he does this long lean, which gives him like an extra 4 or 5 inches of reach. Um, so with all that being said, I think I've rambled on enough about this. I gotta go Nate. Also, I gotta go Nate Diaz by submission, or maybe or decision, maybe even submission. Nate has been on a long layoff. He's got, you might call it rust. I'm gonna call it rest. He made a lot of money off Conor McGregor. His life is pretty much stress free right now, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know. He's got good endorsement deals with CBD and medicinal marijuana or whatever. All that good stuff. Whereas Anthony Pettis in his last 6 fights has gone win-loss, win-loss, win-loss. Granted, his losses were to really top-level guys, Ferguson, Poirier, and Holloway. But before that, he went on a 3-fight skid. He just hasn't had the rest or the recovery that Nate has had. So maybe it's a hindrance, maybe it's a help. Only time will tell for now. So with that being considered, I'm going to go Nate Diaz by decision, possibly even submission, over Anthony Pettis. Okay, moving on to the main event. You have Daniel Cormier is going to rematch Stipe Miocic. Stipe Miocic's last fight he got knocked out in the first round by Daniel Cormier, which somehow granted him a title shot, or a rematch. In the interim, Daniel Cormier has beat Derek Lewis. I just don't see Stipe being that improved in that sort of a time to have any different outcome than what they had before. And look for Daniel Cormier to really, really kick Stipe's ass. Because it's like, the narrative of this was going to be, I'm 40 years old, I want one last fight, let's make it count. I'm sorry, but a guy who got knocked out in the first round by a much shorter guy, by a guy who's literally the same height, basically, as I guess not literally, because they're about an inch difference, as the lightweight champion Khabib Nurmagomedov. For that body to come in there and knock you out in the first round, and you ask for a rematch, I don't know, I don't get it. So look for Daniel Cormier to get the takedown in the first minute of the fight and really beat up Stipe. Make Stipe want to quit. Daniel's just better everywhere. I don't know who's a harder puncher. I guess Stipe might be the harder puncher, but Stipe's wins are Ngannou by that really exciting fight they had, and Fabricio, legit win, and Alistair and JDS. And JDS and him are like 1-1 or something like that. Other than that, like, Daniel Cormier's record is much better. He's beat Anthony Johnson, Gustafsson, Derek Lewis, Stipe, Frank Mir, Dan Henderson, Roy Nelson, Volkan Ozdemir, Bigfoot Silva, Josh Barnett. His list is better, you know. And now a lot of these guys I'm listing aren't really top level right now, but when DC fought them, they certainly were. Anyway, can Stipe catch him? Yes, of course he can. Can he go in there like an idiot and put his hand down like Luke Rockhold did in his last fight? That was an embarrassment, Luke Rockhold. Anyway, I don't want to shit on the guy, but now, get over yourself. Don't be so goddamn arrogant. You know, take a little pride. You know, keep your hand up. You know, sparring with Jason Jackson is not going to improve your... No disrespect to Jason Jackson. He's good in his own right. But you need to fight. You need to spar with somebody who makes you fear the left hook. Like you... If you're not scared of left hook Larry, then you're not going to keep your hand up. Whatever. I'm going on a tangent now. DC can certainly get caught, but Stipe's not going to out-wrestle him. He's not going to outpoint him. He's not going to do anything other than catch him with a hard punch. Look for Stipe to get finished and beat up for the first 2 rounds and finish in the third. So from the bottom up, we have Heinisch to win over Derek Brunson, Benitez to beat Youssef, Romero to beat Costa, Nate to beat Pettis, and DC to beat Stipe. And that's the card, guys. That's it. I don't want to talk anymore because I'm going to go on idiotic tangents. And yeah, 22-minute long video. Thanks, guys. That's my pick. MMA Savant's picks for UFC 241 main card predictions. Thank you. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. Okay, thanks, guys.